Welcome back to Bold TV. I'm your host, Philip Michael. Now, New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo just signed marijuana legalization into law. New York is a major influencer for the rest of the country, so the way they handle this market could be a template for other states. Could it? Could it not? I mean, it's a template for a lot of other things. Here to give us some of those answers is the CEO of KushCo Holdings, Nick Kovacevich.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
What's up, Nick?
Hey, man, it's a good time to be in cannabis.
I
Can't
bet.
complain.
Now, I'm really excited to hear from you for a number of reasons. And one of the things I talk about a lot is when someone is looking to invest is, of course, go to the basics, but then you can leave room for upsides such as crypto and cannabis. And I put those two categories together because it's like one of those booming industries that you know is going to go somewhere. You just don't know how far. Now, if we backtrack just a little bit, what kind of tone does the cannabis legislation in New York set for this emerging market and for the potential upside moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a huge domino for the state-by-state legalization trend that we're seeing. It was followed up the next day with an announcement from New Mexico. And in fact, now there's only one state that starts with the word new that is yet to legalize. That's New Hampshire. So it's starting to get to that tipping point. And we even have a southern state now, Virginia, that just announced legalization. So it's only a matter of time before the federal government legalizes. And we know Chuck Schumer is pushing that, although it doesn't seem to be a priority for the Biden administration. Public sentiment and Senate leadership is certainly behind full-blown federal reform. So we may see that here very soon.
Now, what kind of opportunities will be out there for new entrepreneurs as this happens? Because whenever you have a new industry, sub-economy, sub-industries form, people will set up shop in different areas. What does this mean for people that want to get into this space?
Yeah, so people talk a lot about the cannabis businesses. We call them plant-touching businesses.
Okay.
And they've employed, hundreds of thousands of jobs here over the last 3 to 4 years. They estimate New York alone will employ 60,000 jobs. So there's certainly going to be jobs in the plant-touching industry. But don't forget about the ancillary companies like Kushco Holdings and Greenlane, who don't touch the plant, but provide products and services to those cannabis companies. And we just announced a merger with Greenlane. And together, the two companies employ over 350 people. So there's jobs on the ancillary side as well. So there's all kinds of opportunities. One thing that's interesting about cannabis is it's mostly US jobs, because if you're a producer of cannabis, you have to produce in that state that's legal and you have to sell in that state that's legal. There's no importing these goods from around the world like you see in other industries. So it really is an American industry that's creating American jobs. And for people that like the industry, that want to be in something that's high growth with high potential, now is the best time to get in ahead of this potential federal legalization.
Now is the best time. Now, you mentioned something which is a blockbuster of an announcement about the merger. I want to get to that in a second. Let's backtrack a little bit and talk about what made you get started in this industry when it was really, I still consider it somewhat nascent, but when it really was new. What made you get started? How did you get in? How did you find your footing? And what was KushCo then?
Yeah, great question. We started in 2010, so we're one of the pioneers in the industry. Started as Kush Bottles. We were selling pharmaceutical grade bottles to medical marijuana dispensaries in California. And it was attractive to me and my business partner as young entrepreneurs, a new industry that wasn't being targeted by your traditional corporations. So as an entrepreneur that's bootstrapping your business, would you want to go into an industry that's crowded, where people have been entrenched for decades and decades? Or would you want to go into something that's brand new, where you're actually knocking on doors that nobody else is knocking on? So we saw an opportunity. We liked the space. We knew it was going to be high growth. Still weren't clear about how it would work out legislatively, but that's proven to be, obviously, as history has shown, more and more states legalizing, and even countries like Canada legalizing, and we expect more of that in years to come.
Now, and with KushCo, how it started, because you mentioned you have companies such as yours that don't even touch the plant. What does your company do exactly, and how do you service this market, and how did it allow your company to grow?
Yeah, so our company, we sell primarily upstream to cannabis operators. We sell them reoccurring items that they need on a regular basis, such as packaging, vape pens, empty. batteries. We also sell ethanol and butane, which is used for extraction. So these companies that are cultivating cannabis, extracting the oils, putting them into vape pens, getting these products on the shelves so that consumers can buy legal, tested, high quality grade cannabis products. We're providing a lot of these things on the back end that these companies need to make sure their supply chains are humming. The consumers don't really know who we are, but it's very likely that if you picked up a legal cannabis product, we had something to do with getting it onto that shelf.
It came from you in some form or capacity. Now, let's go back to the big news. So you eventually listed your company, you took your company public, but through the OTC, which is known as over-the-counter, they call it the pink sheets. And one of the things is a lot of times you'd have biotech companies, sort of some obscure companies. You actually had a company. How much are you guys doing in revenue now a year, annually?
So KushCo as a standalone, we did 114 million last fiscal year, and we just announced our quarterly results yesterday at almost $33 million in sales for the quarter.
For the quarter.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously is an absolute beast of a company in terms of the stage that you're in and the traction that you have so far, and particularly in this stage of where the opportunities lie with where cannabis is going. But now, when you went public, there wasn't a lot of interest from venture capital and investment banks for a number of reasons, probably, perhaps with the stigma, the connotations, and the question marks. What made you go out there anyway and say, look, you know what, we have something here. I believe in this for the long term, and we want people to be able to buy into this. You're effectively allowing people to buy into this business through your company. What made you do that?
Yeah, it was really the legalization of Colorado, which brought regulation, and all of a sudden, for the first time, child-resistant packaging, something we've been advocating for years, was mandated by the law, and we knew that other states would follow. Washington was right in the pipeline, had already voted it in. Sure enough, rolled out their program 7 or 8 months later. So we knew this was going to keep happening. We knew California would legalize. We knew at some point New York would legalize. And it's taken 6 or 7 years for this to play out. But every new market is an opportunity for KushCo to be a first mover. But you can't do that unless you have capital. And as you mentioned, it was tough to raise that capital privately back in that time, 2012, 2013, 2014. Wasn't a lot of interest in the sector, and there was a deep stigma around the plant. And so one of the ways that we thought we could get the capital was to take the company public. And we decided to do that at a very young age. There was no investment bankers that would help us. So we had to do it ourselves. We did it on the OTC because we were a small company at the time. We were doing less than 10 million in annual sales. But we got public, we got the stock trading organically. We got picked up by research coverage on Wall Street, firms like Cowen, firms like Canaccord and Jefferies. And we built this on our own, and we were able to then go and raise institutional capital. A firm on Wall Street called Alliance Global Partners, AGP, helped us raise over $100 million of capital. And we used that to fuel the growth. And that's how we grew from being less than 10 million in sales to last year doing well over 100 million in sales. And now it's allowed us to announce a merger with Greenlane, who did an IPO on NASDAQ. They're doing over 100 million annually as well. We put out last year as a combined company on a pro forma basis, we would have been at 250 million. And this year on a pro forma basis, we'll be north of 300 million in sales as a combined company. But that deal has to go through approvals and is expected to close mid 2021. So, here in a few months, and that would put KushCo shares now on the NASDAQ as well. Under
Absolutely.
The Greenlane ticker symbol GNLN.
GNLM. Are you gonna be on Times Square cutting the ribbon and all that good stuff? Are you gonna be there for the, or is it just gonna be business as usual? You got to have some sort of celebration. That's huge.
Hopefully we'll be able to get together and have a great closing dinner and celebrate. But yeah, the work is still ahead. 300 million is not our aspirations. Our aspirations are significantly larger than that. This is a global opportunity. Greenlane has an operation in Europe with a significant amount of staff based in Amsterdam. We know Europe is next. We want to take advantage of Canada. We want to take advantage of Mexico. So there's a lot of work ahead. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're up for the challenge for sure.
My goodness, sounds like you're lighting it up and setting the business on fire. Pun. Good for you. What's next? What's next, Nick? What's next for you outside of the European global expansion? For you personally, now you're going to be the CEO of a publicly traded. You already are, but on the Nasdaq, the big leagues, the big time, like all the way there. What's next for you? Are you excited about the challenge?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think it's a great opportunity to raise the profile of Greenlane and KushCo. It's also a great opportunity to raise the profile of the cannabis industry. We know that there's a lot of phenomenal companies operating right here in the U.S. that are growing revenues tremendously, producing meaningful amounts of EBITDA, but they're still restricted from being able to list on NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange because of the fact they're touching the plant and they're technically federally illegal. So for now, Greenlane has the opportunity to access that market for institutional investors that can't buy the stocks that are traded on OTC and CSE, but can buy NASDAQ stocks. Well, those are our customers, right? So institutional investors will see this as an opportunity to own Greenlane on the NASDAQ and have exposure to these high growth US multi-state operators. So we're excited to take advantage of that, go out and tell that story. I look forward to marketing a lot in New York, talking to institutional funds, look forward to being on segments like this and being able to tell the story. And it's a macro thing, right? We have the opportunity to influence lawmakers on why they should legalize cannabis and bringing it all the way back to New York. You know, one of the things that they did is create a program for social equity applicants to be able to get into the game. And I think this is important for the industry and for the population as a whole to actually right some of those wrongs that were created by the war on drugs and give minorities and folks that didn't have the same opportunities like me to start a business in this industry an opportunity to come in now while we're still at the ground floor and create significant wealth for themselves and their company and their families. I think that's important. New York is setting the bar there. We see Illinois also doing the same thing. So more states should follow. And if the federal government can legalize, our hopes is that there'll be similar social equity type opportunities in the full-blown federal legalization bill.
Love that, Nick. Final question. Has Snoop Dogg applied for a job yet?
He could come hang out anytime. You know, we know Snoop Dogg has been a big advocate for the industry. He's actually an investor in the industry too. So hopefully Snoop Dogg's firm is looking at the Greenlane KushCo merger optimistically, and they'll be reaching out to me soon. Hopefully, is what I'm thinking.
I'd love to see it next time, if that does happen, bring him on, and we'll do another round talking about the KushCo and the KushCo, and of course, what was the ticker again, Nick? Just to remind.
GNLN.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today, Nick.
All right, thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching. Make sure you follow Bold TV on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Until next time, have a great day, and I'm out of here.